Swing Game, a franchise that took the gaming industry by storm. It's rare that such small indie games take off so quickly. The creation of the game, as well as its rise to prominence, marks a turning point in modern gaming culture. However, few know the true story behind the hit franchise and its underdog origins that brought it to this point. With a relatively small player base before its rapid growth and popularity, the journey of the game's development and the many hurdles it faced along the way are rarely brought up in discussion of the series. From game-breaking bugs and back-breaking records to even controversy surrounding the game's developer, Swing Game's storied life is an insane journey to follow. This is the history of Swing Game. The Swing Game franchise began in 2020 with the release of Swing Game. Starting just as a mini-project, the game was at first just a simple physics playground, with a flat grid plastered with random arrays of blocks to swing and grapple from. Fated to remain simply a throwaway game, it slowly fell into obscurity. But that's not where the story ends. After not thinking about the game for a year, one night while on call, the game's developer showed the game to his friends. Though relatively unassuming, it was his friend's request to recreate the game that made this call so pivotal. From this spawned another relatively small project from the developer, standing for a while as a niche game played by only a small few. Updates at first stood as rarities, with the developer choosing to release new content only on occasion. Every new tower and feature was a new novelty, feeding the loyal player base. It was during this era of the game's history when the speedrun scene would begin to kick off. Starting initially slow, runs of the game would focus around the first tower and stayed steady with a record of around 30 seconds. Having little time to hone their skills up to this point, the run was full of potential optimizations, and that's where the legendary wonder Jak Splunk 2 would begin. This groundbreaking discovery left the few players who ran the game astounded. Within only a month of the speedrun community being formed, the game's record had been cut in half. Other runners rushed to learn this new route, getting closer and closer to the world record, but Jak wouldn't give up the record so easily, breaking second barrier after second barrier just to stay ahead. However, after achieving a time of 11.076 seconds, Jak would move on to other games, leaving the record to stand. After a year of slow development, the game's activity dwindled. The speedrun community had all but disappeared, and the casual players began to lose interest. It was at this point in the game's history, however, that its popularity would truly spark. While reading through his YouTube comments one day, the Dapper Waffle would stumble upon one suggestion of much intrigue. "You should do a challenge run of Swing Game 2. Initially, Dapper's video on Swing Game 2 performed relatively poorly, alienating his main subscriber base and not catching on to the algorithm. However, around a week later, as some miracle, the video picked up steam, rapidly climbing the trending tab. Maybe out of an interest of the obscure, or maybe just sheer luck, this relatively unknown project would be launched into popularity. This is where the franchise's story would truly begin. Having recently come back from a vacation, the developer returned to an unbelievable sight. It started with a Discord server, with the developer finding it to be flooded with thousands of new members. But that was far from the end of it, with the discovery of Swing Games 2's newfound virality. Initially, he was shell-shocked, having no clue how to respond to the explosion in popularity. Quickly, however, he decided to put together a proper development team, finding eager volunteers to help expand the fledgling game. Within its first month of Spark development, 2 updates were released, adding a new tower, improved physics, graphic changes, and numerous other small features. With renewed interest and a booming player base, the speedrun community also saw much popularity. Almost instantly, the previously unbreakable record set by Jack Spelunk 3 would be broken, with a runner by the name of LootLoot22 achieving a time of 10.575 seconds. And only a day later, Monkey Ball Fanatica submitted a 10.378 second run to the newly created Speedrun.com leaderboard. The 10-second barrier was within grasp. Few were up for the task, leaving the run relatively stagnant with only a few chefs in the top 5 currently. It wouldn't be long, however, until somebody stepped up to the plate, with Virgil the Mantis Slayer posting a 10.096 second run to the leaderboard within just a week of running the game. But they didn't stop there, and on March 22nd, while on stream, they managed to achieve the first ever sub-10. Celebration of this legendary milestone flooded the speedrunning server, with runners from across the world giving their congratulations to Virgil. Many, however, didn't take this as a reason to quit, and kept on running, with runners such as Red Knight 111111 and Jekyll and Clyde landing with and throwing distance to the record, setting times of 10.078 and 10.111 respectively. But it wouldn't be until the return of a legend that the game would truly be broken for good. In April of that year, the legacy runner Jackal Spelunk 1 would announce his return to the game, alongside his own new record, achieving a 10.408 second run. Though nothing special, Jack would not disappoint, and within just 2 days of streaming, Jack would discover the community's most game-breaking glitch. This discovery shook the community. Achieving a sub-10 was one thing, sub-9 unheard of, but to break the second barrier twice in one run, it was nothing short of insanity. But he wouldn't stop there, quickly achieving a sub-7 and sub-6 in quick succession. Few had time to react, with the gap between the record and second place widening by 3 whole seconds. Soon though, the rest of the community would pick up the pace, with hundreds of sub-10s pouring in, and even some sub-8s and sub-9s. Soon, one runner would even catch up to Jack, trailing behind his record by only a few milliseconds. Rendezvous Pulsar would quickly match Jack's time, and the battle of speed would quickly pick up, with small exchanges of the world record between the two, and quickly approaching the 5-second barrier. Unbeknownst to everybody, however, a little known runner by the name of Crocodile Leader Lyle Latency would swoop in to claim this legendary milestone. And it was at this point that the record would finally lay to rest. Swing Game 2 was in its renaissance, with vast expansions and an ever-growing fanbase, but it all came at a cost. The now lead developer's mental health was taking a dip, with the constant pressure for new, better content weighing heavily on him. In March of 2023, Jacob, the creator of Swing Game, came out publicly, both to reveal his real identity as well as to announce his retirement from the project. This announcement was a devastating loss for the game's loyal fandom, with fans across the world begging him to continue developing the game. Soon after, however, it was announced that the game's development would not end, and that the development of the project would be handed over to Swing Game 2's co-lead developer. With a massive pool of volunteers and new management, the fanbase's morale didn't stay low for long, and quickly updates of the game came back, with an emboldened development team and all the motivation in the world. In the span of just a year, the game had gone from a tiny indie game with a single developer to a massive project with a team of over 100 developers. However, the steam would inevitably die down. Later that same year, Swing Game 2's new lead developer announced the end of the project, with their final contribution to the game being to make the code open source and to integrate a fully functioning mod manager into the game. Last month, it was revealed that a sequel to the Beloved game was in the works, with the game's original developers, including Jacob, returned to the project. Alongside this announcement, early in October, a fan project was announced, called Project Swing, with the goal of faithfully reviving Swing Game 2 for new players to enjoy. Time will tell what the future of this titan of the industry will have in store.